curiosity and a passion for current affairs and the people's interest. 7 years of professionals, diplomats, heads of state, wannabe politicians, and some real ones too. Security forces personnel, members of parliament, and a host of others. Over 1,800 guests, over 900 hours. Newsline Live has represented the people's interest, living the News First ethos, 5 days a week, 8:30 to 9 p.m. Asking the questions you need answers to.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And a very good evening to you. This is Newsline Live, the last performance, the last program for 2022, and what a tumultuous year it has been. It's been horrible, actually. We wonder, because, you know, in 2022, we had the peoples, they came out, and all sorts of jolly things happened. But we wonder what 2023 will be all about. How will the people's interest be celebrated in 2023? The answer perhaps lies in how the people's interest was celebrated in 2022. Let's find out. I'm joined tonight for the last show for 2022 by Harshana Nanayakkara, attorney at law, member of the NPP, of which the JVP is a component member of. Very good evening to you.
Good evening, Faraz. Good to be here again.
And thank you, but you've forgotten your straps, haven't you?
The rush was such, I forgot. I'm sorry.
Well, there you go. Doesn't matter. Harshana Nanayakkara, 5 months into a new president, however temporary or not it may be, all we've seen in Sri Lanka, lots of people say, oh, well, now, you know, things are getting better because there are no queues. Complete and utter tosh. Because the government of Sri Lanka have stopped paying their loans. They're not servicing the loans, they're not paying interest. They've gone into bankruptcy. So the money they have, the little money they have, is being spent on the very, very essentials like the fuel and so on. So it's being rationed. But it's a false sense of security to think that things have actually got better. They have not, have they?
Not at all. I agree with you, Faraz, wholeheartedly, because if you look at this year, March, February, the shortages, the queues, everything came in while we were servicing our debt. We were paying back what we took. But on the 12th of April, we decided to declare that we are bankrupt and we will not pay you back. So when they're not paying back, still look at the cost of living, how it has gone up. Look at the inflation. All these things are indicative. Nothing has got better. But people feel because there are no queues, people who have money can buy the stuff, so therefore it's comparatively better. But it's far more dangerous now than what it used to be. Because now we are not, as you rightly pointed out, we are not paying back our debt. So when you're not paying back your debt, whatever the little dollars that trickle in the form of foreign remittances or tourism or whatever, is now being used to pay for things. But still we are having medicine shortages. So things are not getting any better. In fact, they are far more dangerous than that what it used to be. So I think I agree with you on that.
So basically Sri Lanka still, 5 months later, after the new president came in the wake of a crisis, and he came, as he told British reporters, that he came here almost Churchill-like because of the crisis. But it's 5 months. And all we are being told is that the IMF is coming and it's coming and it's coming. The dear, much beleaguered central bank says, they did say that it will come at the end of December, subject to whatever. But that subject to whatever is the one that became reality. We didn't get the money at the end of December. Now they're saying, oh, look, it'll come in March. But March is when the board of the IMF meet. That's their scheduled meeting. There is nothing in between to say that Sri Lanka has got a plan to repay and service its debts? Where is the agreement with our lenders?
I mean, I would start because there are two parts of a question. The first part is that he came like Churchill, he did not come. Rajapaksas appointed him. Otherwise, he was just one man in the parliament.
Yeah.
His majority was the 134 Pohottuwa people who give him power. Basil came and did confirm what we said. That is, we did a good thing by appointing Ranil, so we can now walk on the streets again. So basically, he was appointed as a protector, but not because he was going to salvage anything. So true to form, he's unable to come out with any plan because he has no idea what to do. He has no idea what to do. So if you look at this 2.9 billion, what they're talking about, to achieve that, first you must go for a debt restructure with India and China. And then, of course, Paris Club will follow suit. But we haven't done that yet. But again, another false thing goes into people's head. Some people feel, okay, when the 2.9 billion comes, everything is going to be hunky-dory. But the reality is not that. Remember, we have ISPs about 15 billion, right? Out of whatever we tell the Rajapaksas, they took only 3 from 2007 to 2015. They have taken about 3 billion. So it is Ranil's government, Yahapala government, which took about 12 or 13 of the entire ISPs. Okay? So a man who could not pull off with 12 billion is not going to pull out with 2.9 billion. But the other thing I want to tell you is, firstly, there must be a plan how to pay back. Right now we are not paying the debt.
Indeed.
Right? So now IMF did say they have 4 conditions. One of them was increase taxes, which they are doing in a shrinking economy. Right? Float the rupee, which they are doing. Restructure SOEs, which they are in the process of. But there's another important thing. Establish a transparent procedure, have an avenue to combat corruption.
Indeed.
These are all requirements of the IMF.
But that is the one thing that they have not done anything about.
So therefore, I do not think this government has a plan how to pay this back, because debt to GDP ratio last year was around 105%. Now this year, from what we have worked out, with a shrinking economy, it could be around 140%. So how the hell, if the government's revenue is only 100, when you have to pay your loan installment at 140, you cannot sustain it. So therefore, that's why they're saying there is no debt sustainability.
I wonder if you have a view or an analysis even. It's like this: all these international lenders are preparing for a haircut. They've already seen their bonds being sold at big discounts and so on.
Or 75% sometimes.
Yes. So they are focused on the only thing that's in contention would be the level of the haircut. Are these international lenders not looking into the country and saying to our central bankers and treasury, well, what are you doing about the local debt?
Now, this is what I hear. This is what we hear and what we have figured out. We are still analyzing it. What they're saying is there has to be equitable treatment of debtors and creditors, whatever either way.
Yeah.
Right? So basically ISPs, international sovereign bonds, that's the thing that the government is trying to take a haircut on. Now when you say haircut, it involves restructuring of the debt, which means either reduction of interest or cut down a portion of the complete debt or reschedule it. So there's some cutting down, right? But what they are saying is this. Now for us, it's an international sovereign bond. But let's say you take England, some charity or some poor relief fund would have bought these things. What they are saying is, if we are letting go of part of this debt, then our country will also be affected. So if you are going to be affected, you need to restructure the local debt as well.
But that will cause significant problems to our economy.
This is the problem. When I was reading some article on Bloomberg, I saw the haircut. Now what they're suggesting is about 17% or 20%. Now if that happens, right, because our locally also central bank has raised now through treasury bills and everything. So if portion of that debt gets cut off, our EPF in trouble, insurance, and not to mention banking sector itself, the private banks even, right? Because even right now, from what we gather, there's about a liquidity crisis of about 7 billion rupees, right? You can see that. So if that happens, the banking sector goes under stress. Then what's going to happen is, just like in Lebanon, they would say, people went with guns to banks and said they were not trying to rob the bank. They were saying, give my deposit back. And they were saying, oh no, your deposit is here, your 10 million is here, but we have no money to give you. So if this local restructure takes place, believe me, that will be chaos. Not a single company, not a single establishment will be able to function in this country. And believe me, this is territory this country has never come into before, all right, defaulting. So therefore, our banking sector might undergo great stress. It's far worse if there's a bank run. I'm not saying those things are going to happen, but because Ranil himself admit that he has no plan, and we do not know when IMF is going to give us a green flag either. They just get postponed. And the most dangerous remark came from the governor, which I'm concerned about. He said, things will get bad. Now I wonder, how more bad should it get right now? And also he says, get ready to change your lifestyle. Now, he knows something that he's not telling us because we do not know what they're negotiating with IMF. But things are not rosy. I say fasten your seatbelts, bumpy ride ahead, economically.
Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, His Eminence, on Newsline, he said that they, as the Bishops' Conference, can't accept that there is any legitimacy to government, especially the presidency, because he opined that when the man who was elected with 6.9 million, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, when he decided to call it a day and go away, the next incoming person is, by the very nature of the circumstance, is a temporary holder of the position, constitutionally, legally correct. But as His Eminence pointed out, the people didn't vote him in. In fact, the people didn't vote for him at all, because he also lost his parliamentary seat. So, actually speaking, it would have been a little bit more palatable had the majority in the parliament appointed an elected member of parliament to be the president.
I agree with His Eminence, and this is a position we have been telling right throughout. Why you think there's instability in this country? If you look at all the rating agencies, they have downgraded us. One of the main things they are saying is, you may have the number of heads required in the parliament, but at a ground level there's no stability. When there's no political stability for us, economic instability will obviously incur. No investors are going to come, we are not paying back our loans. Now, if you look at Article 4 of the Constitution, what does it say? It gives so much of power to the executive president because he is the president appointed by the people. Now, in our constitutional loophole, now Ranil is not appointed by the people. That's why His Eminence is saying that is not morally legitimate. Constitutional, yes. Legal, yes. Moral legitimacy is not there because people have not consented. Country cannot be governed by just constitutions and laws and facts. It has to be run with the consent of the people. Now, if this economic instability to come to any form of normalcy, people must be allowed to pick their own leader. In fact, I think we would propose a constitutional amendment in the future. If there are instances where the popularly elected person leaves or dies or vacates his office, we should have a system, only a caretaker president will be appointed for a limited time to consult the mandate of the people. So that's why His Eminence is saying that is not morally legitimate, which is absolutely spot on. Until a morally legitimate government and president comes in, because this parliament has no mandate, it's over. This president has no mandate, it's over. People have not elected these people. They want him out. So till an election is held and people are allowed to choose whom they want to run, not a single economic program will ever work.
But Harshana Nanayakkara, what and how are the people's interest going to be celebrated in 2023? What should the people be doing? Should the people come out again? I mean, haven't they got anything better to do? They need to be surviving rather than protesting.
True. No, I'm not saying it's like this. See, now political parties, we can hold rallies. Now we can do this and that and whatever. But people have a life to lead. I mean, they need to bring food home, they need to send their school children, so they would do whatever they do. But they're not happy. They're extremely unhappy, right? By January, with the increase of electricity bill again by 60%, it's going to hit very hard. And people are losing jobs. Companies are closing down. I mean, I don't have to tell you, economy has shrunk by 8.8% minus. So therefore, these things are going to happen. So people must exercise their democratic rights. Whether they should come to the street or not, that's another matter. See, the actual shape of a struggle or actual model of a struggle is not chosen by a political party. It is chosen by the people who are the victims of that oppression, right? So therefore, we do not know what is going to happen in January. But what should people do? Write on Facebook. Speak and ask for an election, for our voices to be heard. So democratic rights, people have to exercise. Because we can wait, just like, some people have...
How do they write to the president?
Sorry?
How do the people write to the president? Can they send him an email?
Email, phone calls, everything will not move Ranil. There's only one thing can be moved by. Mass public protests against what he's doing. It's a democratic right to protest. Do not think of goldfish. It was just one model which was suitable for that time. We have to fight this battle in the parliament, in the courthouse, and on the streets. Because Ranil will not go unless you bring that pressure. If we can get the local elections held before the 20th of March, and if we can record a good win on that, then Ranil will know where he stands. Pohoto will know where they stand. They will know that they are being rejected by people. And if we can do that, get the election somehow before the 30th of March, defeat the Ranil Rajapaksa regime, then they will be forced to call for the parliament. Because you know why? Even the international agencies are saying they are not going to help a country where the will of the people is not represented in the parliament or in the executive.
On that note, let's go for a short break and we'll see you on the other side.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Parliament that was scheduled to meet on the 17th will reconvene 12 days earlier on the 5th. JVP and SJB pledge to defeat all attempts to postpone the local government election. Residents of Shravastavela in Panama protest demanding land rights. How can 30 acres of land in Ambevilla be given to a private company? Professor Hool demands answers. 1,500 million in medical aid from the President's fund this year. Kurunegala Mayor's unorthodox method of passing a budget that was defeated earlier. People's Bank interest rates increased to 15.5%.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. We're broadcasting from our studios in Dawson Street in Colombo, the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And our guest this evening is Harshana Nanayakkara, attorney at law, member of the NPP and the JVP. Now then, Harshana Nanayakkara, the people, it really isn't, it's beyond the joke now. It's not funny at all. When you have government officialdom discussing the price of an egg, you know that you're in some form of trouble. Now, there are people who are having not two, they're having one meal a day. And 62% of Sri Lanka's working population are daily waged. It's becoming boring to keep saying the numbers, but that's a fact. 38% are in regular employment. But in Colombo, you'd miss the crisis if you were in Colombo. But out there, in these other areas, people are struggling. They say raise the taxes, so they've raised the taxes. But Harshana Nanayakkara, where is the evidence to show that, starting with the President, the Prime Minister, the Cabinet, and all the others, where is the evidence to show what kind of sacrifices they are making?
Now, this is exactly why people are angry, okay? And if, while they're asking the people to tighten their belts, if they set an example by tightening their own belt, such as stopping waste, reducing some of the fuel, perks and everything they are getting. They are doing nothing of that sort. They are living off taxpayers' money while they are taxing them mercilessly. Now, I will come to one point. If you come to Colombo today or whatever, you will see hotels are full, right? And somebody might even, we have to forgive them thinking there's no crisis here.
Yes.
That is because the top 10% of the population is getting 38% of the national income to their pockets and their bank accounts. But the majority of them, right, the other 90% have to deal with the rest. So therefore, food inflation is skyrocketing. They can't afford to buy a book or a pen, right? And when countries like Bangladesh, who are younger than us, I mean, look at their news items. The metro railway is up and running. Some nuclear facility is being up. And what is our news? Our news, we are looking at oil tank is coming. The charcoal is coming. Now, this is our news, right? And look for eggs at 55 rupees. Now, look at what this country is all about. Bangladesh is younger than us. So, this is exactly the problem.
Bangladesh, of course, very famously described by Henry Kissinger as the international basket case.
I think now, if he was around, I mean, I'm sure he will change his mind and call ourselves that. Because this was a country which has been run down through bad policies, selfish politicians, corrupt politicians, and they are still in power.
And also, this afternoon, somebody stopped me on the road and said that we as in Newsline are missing a story. And I was shocked to think that we've missed a story. And he said, what happened to the Chi satellite?
Good question. Nobody can figure out where it is, right? And that was state money that was spent on it.
300 odd million.
Not only that, remember they even opened a facility using $20 million in Pallekele. Those days the news item was saying how they were having they laid the foundation stone for a space agency. They played with the country's money. We know this, and this is why we've been telling right throughout. People will only follow austerity measures if they feel their rulers are setting the example. Otherwise only anger will come.
Do you think the people should set up something like a good law project with the help of eminent legal eagles and so on, and men and women of the highest integrity, so that the people can do what some other agencies should be doing, to keep the government of the day on track?
Frankly, even now, if you look at it, at various different levels, it takes place. It does. There are so many other organizations. I mean, if you take my party for an example, we established our own Colombo district NPP lawyers. And there are other people also doing it. But there's a big problem. The biggest problem is the 2/3 majority of Pohoto in the parliament. Whatever you go to a courthouse or whatever, yes, you can file a few cases.
Yeah.
I mean, we have made so many complaints, but nothing gets investigated. Because that parliament, which does not reflect the will of the people, is like an octopus holding on to everything. So till you get rid of that parliament, whatever things we establish, yes, it will be good. It will be newspaper headlines. Yes, we go file an FR, we file a complaint. But the problem will remain, because to solve the problem, you need to appoint people to the parliament and other branches of government who are willing, who feel for the people. You think Ranil Wickremesinghe feels for the people? He does not. In fact, he's angry with the people. He was defeated, right? He's taking revenge from the people.
He's taking a holiday.
Who cares? I mean, he doesn't care about the people.
But I think the optics are wrong when our leaders, I mean, you know, we've had a terrible year here, but I don't see any of our directors gone on holiday. They're here, working literally every hour that is given them.
All sensible people are working. You know why? As a lawyer, I had to increase my workload. Otherwise, how am I going to face all these increased costs? I'm going to pay for my work. Only those who are living off public money, like Ranil Wickremesinghe, I mean, his entire life he wouldn't have paid rent anywhere. He would have lived off.
He's good. Doesn't need to pay rent.
Well, since he has a house.
Yeah.
But his fuel, his vehicles, he has been maintained at least 40 years of his life from public taxpayers' purse. So yeah, he can take holidays. We can't. We have to work. You and I have to work. We have to pay our bills. Ranil doesn't pay his bills. Somebody else does. Rajapaksa don't pay their bills. The people do. But you and I have to pay bills, so we have to work. So the problem is, we are working hard, honest men in this country are working. And our politicians are stealing whatever we have. Look at these tax reforms. You think they'll ever be able to collect these taxes? They can't. How the hell are people going to pay when the economy is shrinking by 8 point, nearly 9, minus 9? And then, what about our professionals leaving the country? Doctors are leaving. IT experts are leaving. Because they have better options elsewhere in the world. Now, some might argue and say, no, Harshana, but we have to tax. Yes, I agree, we have to tax, we have to raise government revenue.
No, there's somebody else who wrote to us and said, we've got absolutely no problem in paying the taxes. But we don't like it when our tax money is being squandered by various legislators and lawmakers, and wannabe ones as well.
Why? Foreign remittances are low. Extremely low foreign remittances. They're not, normally we get about 7.5 billion US per year. I think this year alone I brought the figure. It's about a very measly amount of about 2.9 billion foreign remittances. Because even when we speak to them, what they're saying is, your country is not stable. We don't feel like we can send money here. Firstly, the rulers are misappropriating them to buy their duty-free cars and permits or whatever, their luxuries, and go on trips. But Ranil can't be spending his own money to go nowhere. He's spending public money. So other Rajapaksas, right? Chichi's rocket, public money. So what they're saying, they're not sending in. They said, we want a government that will be accountable for the money we send in, not who's just wasting it. Now, this is why I say, as long as this government and the parliament is there, this country won't go an inch forward. So even in the new year, this is the gift we are going to have.
What was the most outstanding moment for you, or let's say 3 things in 2022?
Firstly, how the people rose up. They showed the real power is with the people. Despite you have 6.9 million, despite you have the 20th Amendment and the most powerful president, despite you have 2/3 majority, everybody must listen to the voice of the people, and Gotabaya had to run. Now for me that's fabulous, because not a bullet was fired, not a single drop of blood was shed on the part of the protesters.
To me, that was the highlight for me in 2022. The fact that our armed forces didn't get trigger happy, and they were sensible about it, and I think that was a very good thing.
Do you know why, Faraz? I'll also add to that. What you say, I agree. That is because when you take the uniform off, that's also a poor guy when he goes home. He can't buy his gas, he can't feed his family, he can't send his child. He is a person also going through the same economic turmoil. Believe me, when people rise up, no weapons will be raised to them. It will never happen.
And you know, really, at the time, I couldn't help but think to myself that the Chief of Defence Services, General Shavendra Silva, could have fired a few shots and there would have been absolute mayhem. But they were professional. They, I believe, in a way, they too were with the people.
Of course, our armed forces, the police, they are here to protect the country and not individual presidents. They are here to serve the country, and they did just that by not attacking the protesters. Which also goes to show the reality. If people are organized enough, if people are committed enough, the real power is with the people. We only give it to the politicians for 5 years. You do it and give it back to us. But you don't do it right, we are going to take it back from you. They did not file an FR to send Gotabaya home. They did not file a case to send Gotabaya home. They came onto the streets and said, enough is enough, you go now.
Thank you, Harshana Nanayakkara. Thank you very much. And as we come to the end of this program and the last program for this year, let me wish you, on behalf of Team Newsline, Shehan Ranatunga, Harshana, and all our cameramen, all our technical crew, everybody at MCR, and everybody who makes this happen. Thank you to every one of you, and on behalf of them all, let me wish you all a very peaceful, content, and unchallenging new year. May all your plans come to fruition. Hopefully you won't have to suffer as much as we did in 2022, and who knows, with a stroke of luck or two, we may even have elections and elect good men and women of sound integrity to rule over us and to look after the people's interest. Thank you. Thank you, Harshana.
Happy New Year,
Happy New Year to you
and your
too.
viewers.
Thank you. And that's the way it was on Newsline this year. Take care. Have a great season ahead of you and a wonderful new year. Take care and God bless you all.